Welcome to another episode of Season 2, Paige's Lessons. If you identify as someone who is ambitious, goal-driven, and a badass, you've come to the right place. This mini-series is specifically dedicated toward helping you create your dream life. As a life coach, I made it my life's work to help goal-getters like you overcome any obstacle as it relates to going after what you really want and making an impact along the way. As this season is titled Pillars of Creating Your Dream Life, every episode will break down a specific category of your life. No matter what, by the time you finish listening to every episode, you will walk away with at least one thing to work on, whether that's a journal prompt, an activity, a meditation, something relevant for you as it relates to assessing all the areas of your life to build the life of your dreams. Make sure to listen to all the episodes, as each pillar matters and bleeds into one another. We'll be right back after the break. As a holistic life coach with a background in clinical mental health, I believe mindfulness and meditation practices can be a beneficial coping skill that directly improves the quality of your life. I have used an app called Insight Timer for over 5 years, and my favorite part about this platform is it's absolutely free. They have over 130,000 guided meditations, not to mention a variety of music and stories. 130,000, that's incredible for absolutely free. Everyone deserves access to free daily meditation practices, which is why I became a teacher through the app. If you don't already have Insight Timer, use the link in the show notes to create a free account. Bookmark your favorite meditation tracks, follow teachers like me, and you can also meditate with friends. Once you download the app from the link in the show notes, make sure to subscribe to my account and follow my teacher dashboard, where I have a total of 4 meditation tracks that, again, are absolutely free. If you feel aligned to donate, your contribution will come to me through a percentage that will help support the podcast. Just click on one of my 4 meditations, and once the track starts playing, the donation button will appear at the top right corner. Listeners can donate at minimum $1.99 and max $19.99 US. Your generous contributions make a significant difference. Again, that's insighttimer.com/Coach Paige, located in the show notes, and any donation will provide the podcast with better equipment and marketing strategies so these episodes can continue to help change people's lives. And now, back to our conversation. Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Paige Mitchell. I'm so grateful you tuned in for today's guest, Megan Myers. Megan is a counselor, career coach, and hiking enthusiast. She works at a group private practice supporting individuals with their mental health goals. She mainly works with individuals with perfectionist, people-pleasing tendencies stemming from past trauma. She also owns a career coaching company, Myers Career Coaching LLC, focused on career clarity and value-driven career transitions. I wanted to bring Megan as a guest to discuss the pillar of mental health because, of course, I wanted someone who was a therapist. That's really a value of mine, is someone who has the background to really go into it and share their expertise on the topic. But I wanted a guest who was very competent, engaging, and what I love about Megan is she has this essence about her that is so calming and empathetic and understanding. And I recommend her to anyone who is really feeling anxious or needs tools on how to get back in touch with their body. So I'm just really grateful to have Megan as a guest. You know, we share so many things in common, not only our clinical background as counselors, but some things personally that happened to us in our lives. And it's just so cool. We were able to connect and build a relationship online first. And I'm just feeling really grateful for our relationship. And I know you'll walk away listening to this episode with a lot of insight because your mental health matters. Let's get right into it. Hi, Megan. Thank you so much for being here and saying yes to being a guest on the show. How are you feeling today?
Hey, Paige, thanks for having me. I'm feeling great. Glad it's Friday and looking forward to this.
Awesome. Well, before we get started with our discussion, please just tell the listeners a little bit about yourself. And my go-to question that I always ask is, what was one dream you had growing up as a kid?
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Megan Myers. I am a career coach. I own my own business and I'm a licensed counselor in North Carolina. And a dream I had as a kid was becoming a jockey, like horseback riding in races. And that didn't work out, but it was a cool dream.
Did you ever pursue it as a kid, or was it just something you kind of looked at and you're like, that would be cool?
Yeah, I horseback rode for a long time as a kid. I was a weird horse girl.
No, me
Not that
too. I did
that's
that
weird,
too.
but um and so yeah, I guess I liked things that are fast paced and high energy. So maybe I took a little bit of that into my professional life.
I
Not at
love
all.
that. And
Yeah.
I did horseback riding too, and I still love it
Yes.
very much. But I've never, well, I don't know. I guess in growing up in Colorado, I didn't get to see that. I don't know. I'm sure there were tracks, but I didn't even know that existed. Maybe it's an East Coast thing. I don't know.
Yeah, the big hats, the the derby. I think that is an East Coast thing. Never
Yeah.
got my big hat either. So
Oh, we need to
yeah.
get you a hat. So every episode highlights a particular pillar. And so
Mhm.
I'm talking to you today about mental health. And I really want the listeners to understand that, these episodes, it's going to be around 10 to 12 different episodes covering these pillars. And what I mean by pillar, that just means the category of your life. And, as a holistic life coach, I really believe all of these components, and there's going to be some I'm forgetting, of course. However, if we don't focus and address each one, then we're not really being whole with ourselves. We're not really tuning into all of the pieces of our lives. And so, with this particular topic, mental health, if we don't talk about mental health, all the other pillars kind of don't matter, to be honest. If we don't have our mindset, if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of others. We can't address all the different things. So I'm so excited to talk with you and have this conversation about mental health today. So I ask every guest, why does the pillar we're talking about, mental health, why does this matter when we're creating and building this dream life?
Yeah, I'm really passionate about mental health, obviously, and I feel like you said, if you don't have this pillar, your pillars look more like the Leaning Tower of Pisa or something like that. So, I think mental health shows up, I guess, in your thoughts. So it affects your thoughts. It affects how you look at things, and it affects how you carry yourself. It affects how you feel in your body. Oftentimes, mental health is I guess when people hear mental health, they think of anxiety, depression, two of the most common diagnoses, PTSD, different things relating from your past experiences that are now showing up in your present life. And if you don't have a understanding of how that's impacting you, it's going to make it harder to achieve your goals, because you're going to notice some barriers that'll come up from these mental health challenges.
So it sounds like mental health is maybe just the foundation. It's the root of what we're thinking of like who we are, and getting this kind of core groundedness first can really conceptualizing mental health of like, this is who I am in this state of being, so that I can then focus on other things I want to create.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really liked how you framed that. I think of it kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where mental health is, say you have your goals, your badass goals of moving somewhere new, starting a new job, whatever those awesome things might be. But at the bottom, in your foundation, you've got to have your mental health coping mechanisms, and you've got to have methods for taking care of that, so that you can reach those awesome goals.
So for folks that don't know Maslow's hierarchy of
good
needs,
call. Yeah.
What could you break down what that means?
Yeah, so it's a pillar system where at the bottom there's a larger pillar and they kind of get smaller as you go up, or a pyramid. And at the bottom is, I think it's like shelter, safety, different things like that. And it moves up towards love. I don't have it in front of me, to be honest, but love, different things that you can have once you have the things that are core human needs. So it talks about core human needs, and it starts with the most important ones at the bottom and works its way up. So I guess I think of mental health kind of at the bottom of that pyramid. It's a foundation holding you up so that you can reach your other goals.
Perfect. I agree. If we don't have food and water and shelter, that's really the number one.
Yeah,
then we can do mental health.
Mental health. And then, but it comes kind of before going after your goals and things like that.
Yes. Okay, cool. So how do we become more aware of our mental health? Like, how can we assess where we're at? What's like a good scale or tool?
Yeah. So I think I always default to two things: noticing your thoughts and noticing how you're feeling in your body. Noticing your thoughts, I guess, if you're noticing that you are, I'm going to give some basic examples: having low self-worth, very low self-esteem, feeling unmotivated, really self-deprecating, maybe racing thoughts. If that's kind of more depression related. If you're feeling really anxious, having racing thoughts that are difficult to control, maybe kind of thought spiraling, going into the rabbit hole, some people call it. Just noticing how your thoughts are impacting you. And if every time you're thinking of moving towards something, you're having either difficulty, feeling really low self-worth, feeling really negative about yourself, or having racing thoughts, that might be mental health related potentially. I think there's other things that can overlap with that. And then the other thing is in your body, feeling really tired, feeling kind of unmotivated, feeling lethargic, feeling stuck, feeling tense, feeling really tense in your body. So those are some of the things that I look for, I guess, when I'm assessing clients and checking in with them to see if there's a potential mental health diagnosis or something that might be, they might need help coping with.
Those are really good concrete examples for someone to just take note, like, am I having these signs or symptoms? But what about, excuse me, what about like mental health signs that are great? Like, you're doing really, really well. What are some examples of that?
Yeah. Okay. That's a good one. So I guess no one's ever going to not experience anxiety. No one's ever going to not experience sadness. So it's definitely not like, oh, you have no sadness in your life or no anxiety. Like, if you do, whoa, that's weird. But also, I guess when you hit a wave of depression or wave of sadness or wave of anxiety, that you have the tools to cope with it and you feel like you can cope with it on your own, that you're able to mitigate some of those symptoms through those coping mechanisms. Maybe the anxiety doesn't escalate to quite as high level where it feels debilitating, if I can say that word, or you feel immobile, but you're able to kind of move through it. So you acknowledge, okay, I'm having a moment of anxiety, I'm feeling really low or sad today, and you're able to move through it. Even if it takes a couple days or a week or whatever it might be. But if it's really prolonged, if it's lasting longer than a week, if you're still feeling really anxious or immobile or stuck, that's when I'm thinking, okay, you probably need to check in. You need some additional support. But if it is something that you're able to cope with on your own, then your mental health, I think, is doing well.
I'm glad you mentioned that part of, like, if this is something you can cope with on your own. And I have a bunch of different thoughts. The first thought that's coming to me right now is those that are listening have this complex, and I'm guilty of it too, but this complex of, I have to do everything on my own. I'm not going to ask for help. Kind of that superhero complex. And especially if we're talking about high achieving perfectionist, well, I have to manage my anxiety, I have to manage all the things, I have to have all my coping skills. And so it's like, what do you tell those people who have this desire and like forceness that they have to figure it out and cope on their own, but really they're actually spiraling more and more and burning themselves out. Like, what do you say to them?
I'm hearing a lot of shoulds in that statement.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, and that's something we look for as a counselor. Some of the should statements when you feel like you're putting too much pressure on yourself. And I guess in terms of people who tend to be more perfectionist, a lot of perfectionism stems from past trauma. So I would want to know, am I feeling like I need to be perfect just because because that's kind of my own personality, or is there implications from past experiences that bring that up? And so I guess if somebody notices that there's some past experiences that it might have impact that, and they're feeling like they need to deal with it all on their own, it's important to know that they don't have to. They really don't have to. I understand that feeling of wanting to take care of it all on your own, but at the end of the day, that's probably going to take longer, to be honest. And if you get support, it might shorten the extent, I guess, of what you're having to deal with on your own. It might help you get to your goals a little bit faster. So I understand that drive, but I think that makes things harder on that individual in the long run.
I'm loving this reverse psychology. Actually, if you do that, that's not going to make you more productive. So we're like using the words of like not what they want to hear, but essentially what makes them driven. And if they really love goals and want to achieve, okay, that's fine. But if you want to be at your peak performance, go to therapy.
Yeah,
That's what I tell my clients, all my coaching clients all the time. Like, I am a huge, I say in my title, right? Like, coach, motivational speaker, mental health advocate. I tell every single person on this planet to go seek therapy, and you don't have to be quote unquote sick or crazy. Like, I hate those words, but it's so overused. But you don't need to be this dramatic, like spiraling, burnt out essence before you go to therapy. You can just go as a check-in. You could go to just improve your self-care, to ask a third-party perspective. So I'm always going to promote mental health. I'm always going to, even though I'm not physically in the therapist chair anymore like I used to be, I still am such an advocate for it. And telling anyone that says, well, that's a sign of weakness, or I need to do this by myself, or culturally talking as well, mental health and going to counseling is looked down on, which I understand as a cultural like lens. But there's also that, well, it's like the oxygen mask, right? Like, we got to put on ourselves before we help others. And so if you want to be at peak performance and achieve your goals and do all the things, go to therapy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my question for you, you mentioned a little bit about depression and anxiousness, and those are very common things that we all experience to some degree. And when I'm talking to clients about, coaching them through building their dream life, little, like, not hiccups, I'm trying to say how I should say this, little spurts of low self-esteem and anxiety, and I won't say depression comes up in my sessions, but a little sadness of like grieving of like what was, because now I'm creating something new. So the whole theme of anxiety and depression coming up as maybe potential roadblocks of creating your dream life. So like, what do you have to say about, like, how do we address that when that comes up, when we're kind of on that track?
Yeah. I think that a lot of people who are goal oriented or tend to be more perfectionist are fast paced. And a lot of times they don't like to slow down and take the time to check in with their feelings or feel their feelings because it feels unproductive. And the irony of that, I guess, kind of irony. I don't know if that's funny or not to you, but the funny part of that is that it in the long run, that ends up being a bigger barrier, because if we're pushing everything down and kind of bottling it in like a soda can, then eventually it might come up when we don't want it to come up, or come up at a time that's really inconvenient for us. And we end up having to deal with those emotions, but it might be, in a way that is more difficult, or it might be more prolonged. Whereas if we're starting to notice these little bits of our emotions coming up that might need attention or might need space, if we give space to those emotions when they come up, then they won't explode at some point or feel more overwhelming. So that's something that therapy can do, is give space to those emotions, figure out how to tap into them, really feel them deeply, notice all of the different spider web of experiences that connect to that emotion, that come up maybe when you feel that emotion, and allow you to then, like, okay, once I've felt my emotion, I've given space to this, now I can go off, work with Paige, go after my badass goals, and get what I need to get out of like my future focused self. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
It definitely does. It's sitting with the feelings and having a licensed expert who's been trained and has so much empathy for you. You're granted that space. That is all you. And like, how often do we say that we have that in our day-to-day lives, where we can actually like dedicate something just to ourselves without feeling selfish? Like, that's what booking an appointment is about. It is 100% about you, which, yeah, frightening. Yikes. I don't want to talk about myself, especially people who don't want to be in the spotlight, but therapy makes it a more intimate setting where we can process those past traumas. We can even identify something that I didn't even know was a trauma. And that's what's so cool about really discovering your past and discovering all of these things from your childhood, that therapy allows you to do. It's so unique and special. And like I said, they're trained to sit with you in that funk. So sometimes we feel like we can't do that on our own. And that's what, going to therapy and addressing your mental health in that past trauma healing sense can do. So I always educate my clients, even before we sign up together. Yes, I have counseling experience. However, in this coaching relationship, we're focusing on where you are right now and where you want to go. And you can simultaneously see a therapist while we're working together. I highly encourage that. But if you also done, 10 years of therapy and you're done, you're done. That's cool. So what
even 6 months.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You don't need to be 10 years. Okay.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone who, even maybe in your own counseling sessions, like termination, right? So that just means you're basically prepping towards the end of your relationship, of however long you both have worked together. And so in termination, what's like, maybe like a question I have right now is like, how does the person know that maybe they need to go back to therapy? Like, yeah, the time in the sun, I've processed all I could, but now how would I know if I need to go back?
Yeah, good question. I think kind of like you mentioned before, if you're working towards your goals, or you're working, or just living your life, you notice things that are coming back up, or maybe a current event that you're involved with is bringing up things from the past, bringing up emotions, and you're feeling like you're having difficulty coping with it. And when I say difficulty coping with it, I mean, when those things come up, when those emotions come up, they feel really overwhelming. They feel really hard to deal with. And you're feeling like you need help with coping with those emotions, then I think it's time to go back to therapy. And I think that a lot of people go to therapy in waves, where they'll go to therapy for a little while, take a little break, go to therapy for a little while, take a little break, or even do check-ins. Some therapists even allow that. So I have some clients that I see where it's like, once a month or so, I'll check in with them and see how things are going. But yeah, and I don't know, would it be helpful to share like personal experience too? Like I've been in the other side, sitting in the chair too. So,
Yes, go for it.
okay. I don't know if this is too real for this podcast, you tell me, but
Girl, this is what people want to hear, right?
yeah,
Like I want to hear your journey, not only your expertise, but like give the lessons, share
yeah.
your wisdom, like share what you have learned. This is meant for you.
Well, I just really identify with what you're saying about going after your goals and feeling like stuff is coming up. And I know you and I have talked about this and kind of vibed on this level, but when I was thinking about going back to grad school for counseling, one of the biggest things that was coming up for me, or that was a prohibiting factor in me making the decision to go back to school, because I did feel like there was a wall there, was my own grief that I was dealing with. I had been dealing with grief from a family member passing away. And I was like, I'm not going to go see a counselor, because, which is funny because I wanted to go into counseling. So go figure it. At the end of the day, I'm really glad I did end up going to counseling. And that ended up, one, it helped me understand what it's like to sit in the other side. And I feel like I have a lot more empathy as a counselor because of that. So I think it's good if counselors go to counseling. But I also feel like it was a big barrier in keeping me from my goals. I had all of these goals that I wanted to go after: moving, going back to grad school, becoming a counselor, going after a different career path, leaving recruiting. And I was overwhelmed by all of these goals. I didn't know where to start. And I realized, oh, it's because I'm grieving and I haven't really dealt with that. And I should probably go to therapy and deal with that. And so that was one thing that I guess helped me, because I am very goal focused and I love working towards my goals. But I knew at that point that I needed more than support towards my goals. And then once I did that, I was then able to get support working towards my goals, my professional goals, and my, everything else that I wanted to do in life. But the past things were kind of holding me up at that point.
Thank you so much for your vulnerability and sharing that. That's really, really special. And a lot of people are going to resonate with that, especially like grief in times of, I gotta go, 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 go. Oh, wait, I don't even want to process that right now. So thank you for sharing that. I completely resonate as well. My family member passed away during grad school, and I actually was scared because they offered in my grad program, I guess it was free counseling, but it was with a professor that wasn't in my program, but he was still a part of the department. So he wasn't, so like, he wasn't going to grade me because it is confidentiality, right? So like, I still could see someone at my school without it impacting my schoolwork, but it still felt awkward and still like, just this like thought of like, well, even though like he may still tell like his colleagues, and then I won't be this perfect grad student. Like, so eventually I sought someone else outside of school, but it was in my own time. And I agree with you. Like, it was something I needed to process, be on the other side of the chair, on the other side of the room. And I think anything that you end up doing with your career, I think this is for anyone listening, whatever it is that you are doing, in theory, like you're helping someone in some way. You're providing a service, you're creating a product, you're selling something. This could be any industry. That's what we're all doing, right? We're trying to sell and serve. So whatever you are doing, like, think about it from the client's point of view, the customer's side. You be a client as well, whatever it is. I really would encourage people to just look on the other side and see like, how much can that help you bring more perspective in the room.
That's such a good point. Yeah.
So as I guess we're summarizing here, that someone that is experiencing maybe signs and symptoms of anxiety, depression. There's imposter syndrome. Potential traumas might be coming up from out of the woodwork. We don't even know what's happening while we're like trying to achieve all these goals and build this dream life of ours. So in summary, right, and you can jump in and correct me, but it sounds like if that's something you really want to process and it will help you in the long run, seek therapy, seek some references, seek some groups that can support you in that journey, depending on the topic that you're processing. And then once you feel like you can deal and cope on your own in a very like safe and healthy way, then consider next steps of really going for it and achieving those goals without those roadblocks.
Yeah. I'm going to sum it up and dig into your past shit so you can go after your future badassery.
There you go. That is a beautiful quote. Yes, I agree.
Feels very Paige-esque.
If you can add an F word in there, you probably.
Okay. Next time I will. Yeah.
I love it. Well, is there a, I guess, particular homework or exercise someone can walk away with after listening to this episode and that really focuses on this pillar of mental health? Do you have anything that they could do when they're finished listening?
Yeah. I guess I can throw in one of my favorite grounding exercises, and it also serves as a way to kind of get more in touch with how you're feeling throughout the day and where your mental health is at. So I really like doing a body scan. So body scan is you imagine a beam of light or a laser beam. Find a comfortable place to sit, all that stuff too. And you would imagine this laser beam slowly scanning down from the top of your head. Always kind of checking in on the points that are more tense, like your jaw and your shoulders. And you scan down your whole body. And each time you get to a tense muscle, you relax it. And if it helps, you can tense it and then relax it. And just noticing what feels tense. Checking in, where's that tension coming from? Was I stressed out today? Was there something that was bothering me? Did I read a text that upset me? But just kind of noticing where you're at and noticing, if there's some emotions coming up too. Maybe you're feeling kind of heavy in your chest or you're feeling some sadness. But just taking a second to scan down your body, check in with yourself without judgment, and acknowledge where you're at.
That's so peaceful. I like the top of the head, like starting up there, like a beam of light, like it's very out of body experience. I've done that meditation before, and it is just very cleansing. And like I said, because it starts at the top, it's just such a good visual to really like acknowledge you are just basically an ant on this huge wide world of a rock. It kind of puts you above your not out of body experience, but it puts you more than just yourself, which I think could be really helpful, is if we can just acknowledge there's so many people on this earth. We're all struggling and we're all celebrating. We're just living our lives and we're doing the best we can. So kind of giving ourselves some grace there too. But thank you so much for that grounded exercise. And I definitely think body scans is a perfect way to just check in. And it's something that's 5 minutes. So easy. It could be done in any time, anywhere where you are. Maybe not when you're driving, don't close your eyes, but
yeah. And thank you for that visual of the humans on Earth. I really like that too.
Yes. Well, is there, please tell the listeners a good way for people to contact you if they have more questions and want to get a hold of you.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to contact me, I'm happy to answer questions. If anybody is considering counseling, I would just say the best way to contact me would be through my counseling mentalhealthmatch.com. So you can find me there. That's also where you can find a lot of different therapists. Mental Health Match and Psychology Today are great ways to research therapists. And then my Instagram is at Myers Coaching and Counseling.
Perfect. And all that will be located in the show notes for you all. So thank you so much, Megan, for taking the time and really providing those words of wisdom. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the good energy, Paige. I'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. And thank you all listeners out there in this episode. If this episode resonated with you, make sure to share it on your socials, tag Megan and I so that we can say hello. And remember, every single day provides a lesson. Go out there, dream big, and I'll catch you next week. Take care.
If you're enjoying these episodes and walking away feeling more motivated and inspired, then you would be a great fit for my coaching community. Every Wednesday, I create a newsletter that's designed just for badasses like you to overcome any hurdles that are getting in the way from creating the life you want to live. Each week, you'll receive my favorite strategies and best tips for strengthening your lifestyle habits, overcoming limiting beliefs, and learn how to set measurable goals toward a life that supports your values. If this sounds like a good fit that you want to subscribe to, click the link in the show notes to opt in, and I'll see you on the other side. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others. Post about it on social media or head over to your favorite podcast platform to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Subscribing and posting a review helps to improve engagement and is essential for the podcast to be discovered by new listeners. Thanks again for listening, and remember, every day provides a lesson. Take care.